welcome. Let me take this opportunity to welcome those persons listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast from Jamaica, naturally, United States, Canada, Russia, Cayman, Brazil, Denmark, the UK, France, Germany, Ukraine, Spain, Australia, other parts of the world, St. Lucia as well, Switzerland, and those persons listening on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify. Just like to say welcome to you as you listen to this another episode of Dr. Canute White speaking to you from Merrimar, right? And this is Canute Exploration, brought to you today by Shop Posh Libra, Jamaican online fashion store. Instagram, Shop Posh Libra. You can WhatsApp them at 876-292-4255. Delivery service available. Shop Posh Libra. Fashionable, essential. Today, as we all know, is the 4th of July. Big up to the United States of America. Independence Day, 4th of July. Well, tomorrow is when it really will be celebrated. I note that in Merrimar, where we're at, the authorities, they're hosting a firework and concert. Morgan Heritage out of Jamaica will be there. I think that will be at the Merrimar Regional Park. They are saying that after 8 you cannot enter, but the gates open at 5:30. Okay, so be there. And Canada had celebrated their independence. It's Independence Day, and Thursday, that's the 1st of July. It's very important in this episode as our guest hailed from Vancouver in Canada. And I must tell you, the last episode we have someone from Sydney, Australia, and he was saying, hey, it's after 5 where you're at now, and it's after 8 a.m. It's after 5 p.m. ET where you're at now, and it's 8 a.m. in the morning here in Sydney. I was saying, okay, then you are waking up. I'm getting ready for bed. Now, the guest today, it's approximately, well, 2 minutes after 2 there, I guess. And we here in the United States, Merrimar to be exact, entire United States, but we are hailing from Merrimar. It's 2 minutes after 5 in the afternoon. Welcome to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. Look, I'm going to be talking to you about the topic in the news. You know, we have this topic that I'd like to talk to you about. You heard about the condo that had collapsed. I think it was last week, sometime a week before, and it has been creating a lot of fear in a number of persons who are living in the high-rise building in Miami. And indeed, there was another one that that was collapsed. Another, I think it was a 4-story or something, or it's perhaps higher, in Washington, and it has been creating a lot of scare in people who are living in condos, and it's really something to consider at this point. But you know, top Miami-Dade fire official on Saturday told family members of people missing in the robbery of the collapsed condo building that demolition will be done today. You know, there will be, you know, perhaps bringing down the other part of the condo that was collapsed. And you know, it's something to think about, because I was talking to someone yesterday and saying that perhaps there are still persons there who are still alive. I don't know. What do you think? And they should perhaps wait a little bit longer before they actually bring down the building. Well, what do you think? You can leave your comment in the comment box there where you're watching, be it on Facebook Live or YouTube, and the conversation continues. I think it's something to look at. But my exploration question for this episode: you remember as a child the games that you used to play? What was your favorite childhood game, and why? I I don't know. there's a thing that we used to play in Jamaica called Dolly House, right? It's really a replica of parenthood as a child. So you have be it the nuclear family, the extended family, and it's epitomized. There's the responsibility that family members would have. So the child, the male would play the father, the female, the mother, and so on. So it's really a drive to encourage responsibility, familial responsibility, and perhaps there's a bit of familial pleasure because you get to be that authoritative figure as a child, right? Be it mommy or daddy, and children will play along as well. We are all children then, but that game was good. I love it, and I will ask my guest. So I'm hoping that he's prepared to answer. I hide and seek was also a good one for me, and it was really fun, and the fact that we would have to play so sometimes way in the night, and I don't know. I think we had enjoyed ourselves then as children as we play those childhood games. I grew up with a lot of female around me. Honestly, I was sort of in tenement yard. I was sort of the only male child in most cases. A big tenement yard with several people living there. I grew up in the ghetto, so you know what that means. All right, I'm gonna let my guest in. He's from Canada, right? And I want him to answer my question. I hope he's prepared. What was your favorite childhood game, and why? All right, let me my guest in, Sam, at this time. Sam, how you doing? I am hoping that you're ready to answer my question, Sam Thiara. What was your favorite childhood game, and why, Sam?
Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share today and to be a part of this podcast. Growing up, my childhood games, I mean, there was a lot that we used to play. Part of it is we grew up in a day where in a time when there was no internet or video games, so you had to really make up your own games and have fun. I heard you say hide and seek, and we had a lot of fun doing that and playing in different parts of our neighborhood and areas, especially because we don't live too far away from the forest. So we used to just go into the forest and play there. Road hockey was one of the things that we grew up playing. That's a Canadian iconic game. I mean, you just get all your friends together and then you go out in the morning, you play. All the mothers at one time would yell to say it's time to come in for lunch. So everybody goes in for lunch. Then you're back out again. And then at dinner time, is it getting dark? Then they call you for dinner. But we used to just have a lot of fun hanging out with our friends and our neighbors. And it was a really great time for us.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, Sam. You grew up in Canada, right?
That's correct.
All right. Back then as a child, were you I'm not sure how much you are connected to religion, but back in Jamaica as a child, every Sunday I would spend the entire Sunday in church, Sam. Like from in the morning, I come home for supper, for lunch, that is, and back at church until way in the evening. The Sundays weren't for me.
For us, we were not an overly religious family. There was not church. We actually got to go out and do what we wanted to do on a Sunday. And, eventually you find spirituality. But at that time growing up, no, we were just, hanging out with our friends on Sundays, just really making the most of the time together.
Yeah. Okay. Who is Sam?
Sam's an individual. I love the question. I always say the best way for me to describe myself, there are 5 things that guide and direct me in life. That has become my foundation. I call it the 5 core elements. There's 5 things: servant leadership, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler, and community do-gooder. Those 5 things are integral in my life and make me who I am, but it allows me to then support and help individuals, teams, organizations, and nonprofits to really be the best. Those 5 things that I've just shared with you also has made me into a speaker, storyteller, entrepreneur, mentor, coach, a writer, a problem solver, an educator, and as well as a community activator. So anything that I undertake has to embrace those 5 key things.
No, great, great. I realize that you have gotten a number of awards as well, Sam. I'm not sure. But before I go there, a number of persons have said some great things about you. This one, we're kind of individuals whose impact goes far beyond himself. That's great. You're an enabler. And that was said by Sean Peters. I also recall that I think this person believed that what you have done for others, it actually ripples along. It's like you have set a pace in the community, and community members follow that pace and contribute through you, right? To the community. So that is great, Sam. Awards and recognition. Oh, what's going on there? Tell us about
Yeah,
those awards.
sure. I mean, I always say I never strive for these awards and recognition. You get nominated by people who feel that you are worthy of an award or recognition.
Mhm.
For me, the Governor General of Canada is the Queen's representative in Canada. So it's a very high honor. And I was a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. And I was a recipient of the Canadian Sovereign's Medal for Volunteerism. But the whole idea is, to me, the way I look at it is it's an acknowledgement. And by receiving it from the Governor General of Canada, it means there's more work that I have to do. It's not the end point. It's a place where now I have to even do more. And in 2012, I received a medallion from the Rick Hansen Difference Maker. And again, that's one where Rick Hansen, a person who's disabled, went around the world to, again, raise the awareness of disability, and that instead of being limited, you can be limitless.
Oh yeah.
And as a result of that, I was a person that got to be on the journey for when he came back. And years later, went across Canada. And I was one of those, what we call difference makers, who was bestowed the honor of being able to go on a relay in a certain part of Vancouver, again, to raise the awareness and to be acknowledged. But as mentioned, I think these awards, I appreciate them, but it's an acknowledgement, and it just means there's so much more I have to do.
Yeah. I love that. The sort of philanthropic, vibe that you have. That's great. But I'm gonna ask you a question. But this question, I wonder if you got that philanthropic vibes from your childhood. Tell us about your childhood, Sam.
Yeah, growing up in Vancouver, I'm a British-born Canadian, and my parents actually come from Fiji Islands, and my grandparents come from India. And at a young age, I moved to Vancouver and had just the usual growing up childhood experience. But when I was 9 years old, and I write about this in a book that I wrote, my memoir, is I came home from school and my aunt was there, and she made a cup of tea, and she said, "Before you go play with your friends, I just want to let you know your father was involved in an accident." Okay. Now, I still remember this image at 9 years old of his car rolling into a ditch, him getting out and walking home. Yeah. But actually, he had an industrial accident and he became a paraplegic and never walked again. Yeah. All of a sudden, at the age of 9, you suddenly become more mature, more responsible, because we had a small family network. And now my father had this disability. And as a result of it, I had to take more ownership. And I think that taught me responsibility. It taught me responsibility, but it also taught me that not to take for granted the things that I see and experience in life. In other words, embrace them. Because, and it's not a morbid thought. It's not a thought that I'm going to be dying soon, but it's just make richness into your day And I find richness by going through supporting and helping individuals and organizations and nonprofits, because it brings me so much joy to see them progress and that I was on their journey. But what's
Yeah.
really important is I am not here to change people in my perspective and views.
Hmm.
It's about supporting their authentic journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So looking back at your childhood, Sam,
Mhm,
is there anything that we,
mhm,
the listeners, listening you, right,
mhm.
can get that would inspire us? What is that inspiring message from your childhood?
Yeah, the inspiring message that I would share is the fact that, you know, a realization that obstacles are the necessary bricks on our road to success. All throughout growing up in my childhood and into my teens and university life and everything, is rather than fearing the obstacles, embrace them. They are all part of this journey. You are not going to have a journey that is without obstacles. And instead of fearing the obstacles, embrace them and learn from them. And it helps you to become stronger because you have experienced the obstacles. And I've had these obstacles placed before me. And again, I never am fearful of them. I'm never worried about them. I just know that they've been placed there for me
Yeah.
because I need to learn and I need to grow as an individual.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Your family tree is something that
Mhm,
I'd like to hear about. I mean, we had talked a bit before this podcast.
mhm.
Tell us about your genealogy, your family tree, and the whole thing about searching for that sort of identity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a British born Canadian. Parents come from Fiji, grandparents come from India. And it's not uncommon for someone to come up and ask, "So, what part of India is your family from?" And I said, "Well, I was born in England, raised in Canada." And they're like, "No, no, no, your parents, what part of India do they come from?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, they actually come from Fiji." And people are like, "Okay, because that's near Australia, New Zealand."
Okay.
And they're like, "Wait, are you Indian?" And I'm like, "Well, my grandfathers come from India and my ancestors." And then others who will say, well, you're not Indian, you're Canadian, whatever that might be.
Mm,
So, it's this whole aspect of struggling with identity growing up. Like you want to try to fit in to a certain mold, into a certain place, like playing road hockey, becoming and feeling so Canadian.
mhm,
And
mhm.
then when you go to high school as a grade 8 student, a kid walks by and then just beats you
Yeah.
because you're a different color. And you're
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? I'm Canadian. And they're like, no, you're not Canadian. So I really struggled with this identity piece. And I thought, you know what?
Mhm.
I need to go realize my ancestral roots.
Yeah.
So I decided, I'm going to prepare myself and I want to go to India. Part of it is to try to find my ancestral roots because nobody knew where my grandfather's house was, my paternal grandfather.
Mhm.
And, all we knew is the name of the village. It sits about 6 miles from a town called Garshankar,
Mhm.
and it sits in a district called Hoshiarpur. So all I had was a faded photograph and little else. So it's like going somewhere to look for something that you are trying to find, but it's a needle in a haystack,
Yeah.
but you're not even sure where the haystack was.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I went on this journey. And again, it goes back to the obstacles. So, not listening to the noise, persistence, overcoming obstacles.
Mhm.
Because people were like, why are you even looking? Why bother? If you find it, you may not even have a good reception. There wasn't a lot of support for me to do this.
Mhm.
But I needed to do this for two reasons. The first reason, the connection back to our ancestral roots is now just a very thin thread.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to find this or do this apart from me. So if I don't do this and it skips a generation, all of that
Oh,
information is now gone.
yeah. Mm.
And I'm only going by an oral history now. And everybody is getting older
Yeah.
and aging, and that information is all being lost. And the second part I thought was really important is I needed to go because my father's never been to India. I wanted to try to find his father's house, my grandfather's
Okay.
house, to do
Mhm.
this for him. So I went to India, but it was, and this is why the book is called Lost and Found, Seeking
Yeah.
the Past and
Hmm.
Finding Myself,
Yeah.
because our village was lost, but so was my identity. So here I went to India to find my ancestral roots, but it was also to realize, who am I? And realize that. So that was the journey I went on.
Yeah. Interesting. This is Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White, sitting in with Sam Thiara, and it's some interesting information and this whole thing about. I described you, Sam, as the man with multiple cultural personality, right? And
Yeah.
it's super, and the fact that you have talked about finding your identity, and
Mhm.
many of us, I could say to you that Jamaica is a place with 14 parishes, right?
Mhm.
Province, and my mother is from St. Andrew. I was
Mhm.
born in Kingston, right?
Mhm.
And my father was from another part of the country. So I'm a Kingstonian though, right? But they have grown up in different parts of Jamaica. Some tell us about
Mhm.
your birth date and how you share that with Canada. Canada just celebrated
Mhm.
the independence, Canada Day, they call it, right?
Yes.
Canada Day, and on the 1st of July. I think it's a weekend thing up to Monday, or is it that Canada is back again and it's feet on Monday? What?
Just the one day.
Just the one day. Okay, okay. You celebrate Canada's birthday. You were talking about that.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
it's really great. I mean, the
Mm,
fact is that my birthday falls on July 1st, the same day as our nation's birthday.
mm,
And, it's one of those special times because, everybody's got a day off and they take it as a vacation. For me, it's interesting with birthdays. I never like to make it into a big deal. For me, a birthday is about self-reflection. A birthday is looking at the journey I've been on and trying to vision the future. And I wrote a post, and it was, in order to vision the future, one must reflect on their past while standing on the crack that we call the present.
yeah.
So this is what my birthday is just this whole realization of appreciating where I've been. Then also looking at what are some of the things that I need to do for this year and moving forward. But I appreciate where I am today and
Yeah.
the person who has been gifted the opportunity to share with people. And I just sit with this beautiful satisfaction
Yeah.
of all the people around me who I've really enjoyed being with.
Yeah. That's important. This thing about birthday and the birth date.
Yeah.
I am very philosophical. Those persons who know me would know that
Mhm.
I think differently. I usually criticize my book, my textbook in university, and the
Mhm.
professors wonder why. But birthday for me is the day I was born. I really
Mhm.
celebrate my birth date.
Mhm.
I don't know what you think about that, because it's really the birth date, the 8th of
Mhm.
February I was born.
Mhm.
And it's so the here and so on. That's a day. But after that, I celebrate that date, the 8th of February. What do you think? I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I think if I put a lot of emphasis on it, the birth date and the birthday,
I know.
um, you know, uh, I think it's just semantics, and I
Yeah,
think it really is about perspectives and what you know different people's views and perspectives. Some people love to celebrate it. They prepare. They spend a week in advance of, my birthday's coming, and then they make
yeah,
this big announcement, and they, will also, do what they want. And there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
It's so funny because I look at it as some people are outwardly, I'm inwardly on my birthday
Okay.
or birth date.
Yeah,
But yeah, but it's about the day that everything started, and
yeah,
it always is a reminder for me to ensure and to make sure that I think I use it as a bit of a center point to say, am I doing the right things in
Yeah.
life, and to support people.
Yeah. Before I go into your writings,
Yes.
the last episode that I had, we talked about the time when you were born. Do you know the time when you were born? The time of
I,
day when you were born?
well, and I have a uniqueness because I was actually born at home, and it was around 2 a.m. on that date. And actually, whenever I go back to England, I always go visit the house that I was born in.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Your writings, Sam. You mentioned that book earlier on.
Mhm.
Tell us about that book, and I think
Mhm.
there's another book that you had
Yep.
written. Let's hear them.
Yeah. So, 7 years ago, I never was a writer, but this emerged because it really lined up with the 5 core elements that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book I wrote was on personal storytelling. In other words, I did TEDx SFU, and
Mm-hmm.
at the TEDx conference, it was about people said, "What do you want to share?"
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "I want to share about storytelling." And then I did the whole talk about storytelling. But I realized that for storytelling, it's easy for me to then share why storytelling is important, but how can I help you with stories? And I came up with this idea of carpe, as in carpe diem. So the
Mm-hmm.
book is about 5 things that somebody can do to help them build their story. And it's curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspective, and experience. Those are the 5 things how you can take the ordinary and make them into the extraordinary.
That was a break for you. All right. You were talking about your writings.
Yes. Yeah. So, as mentioned, the first book is about personal storytelling, and it prompted me to then write my second book about my journey to find my ancestral roots with just a faded photograph, very little information, but it's also about identity. So that's why the book is Lost and Found, Seeking the Past, in other words, my ancestral roots,
Mm-hmm.
and finding myself, because by going to India, I was able to better appreciate my own identity as a British born Canadian with parents from Fiji and grandparents from India. So it's a beautifully told story and a memoir of my experiences of going to India for the very first time.
Oh, cool. You perhaps have advised this group that you have, this organization,
Mhm.
right? I'd like to know more about this organization, though. Can you tell us about that organization that you have? What's the name
Oh,
of it? Mhm.
okay, Gratis One.
Right. Hmm.
Okay, Gratis One has now merged with the League of Innovators, but Gratis One was I co-founded an organization to help young people with life and career. I was confused, and I found I had a challenging journey with regards to my life and my career because I didn't know who I was. I was really focused on what I wanted to do and not really realizing who I was. Gratis One was created so that we would build partnerships with high schools and post-secondary institutions to help them maneuver and with regards to understanding and supporting the journey of the young person. So our audience was 15 to 25-year-olds, and we did very well in the Vancouver region. We knew we could not scale nationwide because of the fact that funding wise, the work we were doing was not scalable. But a nonprofit that was Canada wide, League of Innovators, really appreciated the work that we were doing, and they approached us to merge with them. So now Gratis One has merged into the League of Innovators. Uh, we're still helping a lot of people, young people in life and career, but equally at the same time, again, you put your ego at the door because the branding of Gratis One, which we created, no longer existed. So, but the idea is it's able to help more people. So you park your ego at the door and say, well, if it helps more people, this is a good thing. And so now it's that's what the organization was, and now we've gone nationwide. Oh, sorry, you're on mute, sir.
Are we reaching our youths? Are we reaching them?
Oh, very much so. Like I find that either it's Gratis One or my conversations. I mean, I've had about 5,000 conversation with the youth. Uh, I do 3 to 8 conversations a week to help people in life and career. So it's been a really great journey because you become an expert in that space. What I have really learned is, how do you activate the voice within to be louder than the noise around? There's a lot of noise around telling people you should do this and that. But my job is to activate that voice within. So people will come to me seeking advice. They want me to tell them what pathway, what journey, what career, what business to start.
Oh.
They see me as this bearded man sitting on top of a mountain in an orange saffron robe, a monk who is there to tell you what to do. And I said, no, there are enough people telling you what to do. I'm going to be what I call a difficult monk, meaning you come to me looking for the answers. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. But the answers that you look for are within you. My job is to just pull those answers from you by asking thoughtful questions. But having about 5,000 conversations, being able to support many people in their journey, it's been very rewarding.
Yeah. Those 5 other elements in your book, can you
Yes.
explain those 5 elements
Sure.
in your writings?
What I've, as mentioned, I think we're so focused on what we want to do without really understanding, who we are. And I always say that if you want to build a house, you need a solid foundation. To build a life, you need a solid foundation, but we haven't built that solid foundation in life. I've always said that, what are the 5 things in your life that you are not willing to compromise, that are so important to you? So as mentioned in the beginning, 5 things that guide and direct me in life are servant leadership, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler, and community do-gooder. Any project that I undertake has to hit 5 out of 5. But what I've done is I've really reflected. So rather than pursuing something and seeing if it fits, I now balance it against these 5 things that I've just shared with you to see, does this work or not? And a great example is my writing. If I had the goal of being a writer, a goal, and writing emerged, today I would not be a writer because that was never in the plans. But writing hits 5 out of 5. So what I work with people to help them realize this, what I always say is, what are the 5 things that you are not willing to compromise? And it's interesting because we go through this journey and I say, but do not be afraid to go down this journey, because it's not about finding the 5 exact correct words that you're going to now carry with you for the rest of your life. It's like, no, you're going to change and your words will change, but you need to have something as a foundation to start from. And the way to get them to think about this is to ask why. So I always ask them, what courses did you do? And which ones did you enjoy and not enjoy, but why? If you have a job, what do you like about your job? What do you not like about your job? But asking why. And what do you like to do in your spare time, social time? Why? And the idea is you try to come up with these words to reflect who you are. So, for example, oftentimes people say, well, one of the things I'm not willing to compromise is my connection to family. And I say, okay, why? And they say, well, connection is really important. Relationships are really important with my family and all that. I said, okay, let's take that word family, but you've just talked about connections and relationships. Does that also apply to your work environment? And they're like, absolutely. I said, so let's pull family out and replace it with connections and relationships. And that incorporates your family, it incorporates your work, it incorporates your social. And they're like, oh, okay, so I get it. But I guess the only thing I really want to share is coming up with something that becomes these 5 really important things for you allows you to now have a base and a balance point against anything else that you want to do in life.
Yeah. If I want to build a story and tell a story, I mean, I can just tell a story, build a story. Are you saying to me that there are techniques in doing this?
There is. And the reason I say there is a technique to it is some people are really good at it and they don't need it.
Okay.
Others, and many people, aren't sure how to capture stories. And this is where, in my first TEDx speech I delivered, I talked about curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspectives, and experience. Because if you do those 5 things, you capture it. And what many people do is miss that experience piece at the end. So they have these things that happen. And if you don't catalog it as an experience, your story has died an untimely death. It will never be told.
Oh.
So this is where the curiosity is important, because that's what stops you. Appreciating, so A is appreciation, and you appreciate it, the people, the situation, the place you are,
Yeah.
for more than what it is. And you add reflection, which is purpose and meaning to it. And then our perspectives add more substance to the story, but we capture it with experience. And that's how you can discover the extraordinary out of the ordinary and be able to then share and tell stories. I mean, in my university class, every time I'm telling stories when I'm trying to get them to understand a concept and an idea. And my students have always said that when you share your stories, it helps us to relate to the examples and enables us to better understand the concept. Because of the fact that these are, when you tell a story, number one, you never memorize a story because it's your experience. Right. But equally at the second time, the idea though is that you try to have it with purpose and meaning. And in the beginning of my book on storytelling, I wrote a piece that said, what's the last story you read? What's the last story that you told? But what's the last story you lived? And that's the most important part. What's the last story you lived? Because we are all living stories. We all have experiences, and there's a need for us to sit down and share with each other.
Would you say then, as you have said, we have all, we all have a story to tell.
Yep.
You talk about your childhood. I can talk about my childhood. Each of my listeners could talk about his or her childhood. But suppose we want to get creative with it.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity meaning that I would perhaps pull some things out, put something in to make me into a character, right? What would you say about that? Is it that then we just have to be creative?
Oh, totally. I mean, you've got the situation, but you have to add it. It's almost like if you were cooking. I mean, if you made a soup with just by boiling water and throwing some potatoes in there, it's not an enjoyable soup. But once you start throwing in things like some seasoning and you throw in some other vegetables and things, it now becomes flavorful. And the whole idea behind it is making a story that's flavorful. So that when I wrote about my journey to India, I didn't just say, oh, I went to this place. No, I talked about how I ran my hands along this red sandstone and the gritty feel, standing on the marble floor and how cool it was to the touch, or just the beautiful, intricate writing on the walls that I had no understanding of what it meant, but it just looks so beautiful. So I wrote about all of those experiences. So it's bringing the reader in to embrace what you have experienced.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we talk a bit about being confused as it relates to our identity, right? But how can we explain to someone who we are? Sure. Perhaps you have alluded to that earlier on, but talk to me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, when I Lost and Found, what I realized is my life was what we call in Indian cuisine a thali, and a thali basically means it's a platter with segmented dishes. So I'm British, Canadian, Indian, and Fijian. So I'm all of these different things. So when I'm with my Canadian friends, obviously you become Canadian. When you are, with your, if you're ever at an Indian temple, well, you have to be this respectful and all of that. By going to India, what I realized, and I had this epiphany in this book, was instead of this thali and being segmented into these different places, I am a rice dish. And this rice dish is called khichdi. It's an Indian rice dish where basically it's a rice dish where you go to your fridge, whatever vegetables you have, you cut them up, you add it to the rice dish, you add your spices, and it's it would be the equivalent of an omelet. So rather than segmenting who we are, like whether you're in Canada or United States or anywhere in the world, we always categorize ourselves that, I'm Canadian, or okay, I'm this, I'm that. And we struggle with this because people often ask, where are you from?
Yeah.
Or tell me about your background, or like, you know,
Hmm.
are you
Yeah.
are you Indian? And you know, when you say, well, I'm this, then there are times where people said, no, really, who are you? Like if I said I was Canadian, they're like, no, who are you? Like, really?
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah.
you struggle with this, and I think a lot of people do. But the only thing I share with that is everybody is khichdi. And it could be like the equivalent of an omelet, or you know, there
Yeah.
may be a Jamaican dish, which basically
Yeah.
is just a mix of everything that you bring
Yeah.
as
We call
leftovers.
that seasoned rice. What you
See?
explain? Seasoned rice.
Yep.
Right.
And the idea is it's all leftovers, but hey, you know what?
Yeah.
It's an amazing
Fried rice.
dish.
Oh, yeah.
Never duplicated.
You know, Sam, as you talked about culture and identity, um, I'm Jamaican,
Mhm.
right? Be it I've migrated to the United States and become an American. But the point is that I've been, we in Jamaica, they often say you're African.
Mm.
This back to Africa concept, and people like me believe that no, I'm not African, I'm Jamaican. You understand what I'm saying? So how do I explain to individuals that I'm
Mhm.
not African? Trust me, I'm Jamaican.
Mhm. You know, it goes back to this whole idea of perspectives.
Hmm.
And the idea is that everybody holds a perspective. And in fact, I'm speaking on doing a lecture tomorrow, and part of it is on
Okay.
perspectives. And it's about people have this view of the world, whether it's something as simple as what you look like, and then they're filling
Yeah.
in the details that, well, you know, you may be Jamaican, but you know what, you're African, or
Yeah.
you're is somebody like me, well, you're Indian. So they have
Yeah.
this perspective, and their perspective is what I call their truth. But by listening to people and being more accepting, I
Yeah.
think that it makes this into a better place. Like, for example, perspective is interesting because, you know, there's times I've traveled to different parts of the world.
Hmm.
And, you know, when I went to the Middle East for the first time for work, people said, you can't go there, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, no, I mean, I'm going. And I went.
Hmm.
And when I came back, people said, so what was it like? Was it dangerous? And I said, oh my gosh, it is extremely dangerous to be in that region. And they're like,
Yeah.
really? What was it like? I said,
Yeah.
I mean, if you try to cross the road, it's so dangerous. And they're like, well, what do you mean about crossing the road? I said, well, they don't have road safety. And then they're like, yeah, but what about the terrorism that we see on the
Yeah.
news? What about all the violence? I said,
Yeah.
no, it's safer to walk in that part of the world than many parts of the world that I have been.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that you got to open your mind, you got to open your eyes and accept this. But there is something very dangerous about the Middle East.
Hmm.
And that did happen to me. And the dangerous thing was I was invited to a house where the mother sat across from me, and she made sure that she would put food on my plate until I could not eat anymore. The hospitality is what's dangerous because she wants to do so much for you that you just got so full. That's dangerous.
And
To
it's
go
still
sit,
dangerous. She's
oh
being
man,
good, but it's dangerous.
it's dangerous because you have to eat slow
Yeah. Yeah.
because she's going to be offended if you're not enjoying the meal that she's now prepared. And there was like 20 dishes in front of me. So that's the dangerous bit, is when you get invited to a house and the mother wants to just be so generous with you, and she grabs the spoon and puts the food in your plate. That's dangerous.
Definitely. This is Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, sitting in with Sam Thiara from out of Canada. What time is it now, Sam?
It's now almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Vancouver.
Oh, it's almost 6 for us, right? 17:58. So you see the time difference there,
Mhm,
Deeper. But Sam, leaders emerges every
mhm,
day.
mhm,
The leaders emerge every day, and you find that each of us in our own right
mhm.
are is a leader. But what do you have as
Yeah.
advice
Mhm.
for future leaders, for
Yeah.
persons who exert
Mhm.
leaderships and perhaps not doing it right?
I always say, number one, don't be a leader. And what I mean by this
Yeah.
is, leadership is not a position or a place
Okay.
to be.
Mhm.
Leadership is a lifestyle. And you don't determine if you are a leader. The people around you determine if you are worthy of that title, if you have earned the respect and earned the trust and
Mhm.
earned the title. So the idea is that, I think people strive to that thing called leadership, but no, it's more than that. And I think what we have done is we have ignored the most important component of leadership, and that's the follower. People see
Okay.
followers as a negative piece. No,
Mhm.
followers are not sheep who are blindly following a leader. No, followers are the people who make the leader because they believe in what this person says and what they do. So just remember, leadership is not a place to be or a position. Leadership is a lifestyle. Park your ego at the door, do what's right,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
people will see that you are worthy of that title. And
Yeah.
equally, don't be afraid to be a follower when you don't force yourself to be a leader. So, that's how I view leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. But we realize that a number of leaders are not
Hmm.
humble. This
Hmm.
sense of humility
Yep.
has been lacking in a number of leadership roles. What's going on there? What advice do you have on that?
Yeah, the main thing is, park your ego at the door. Don't look for the title. Just do the work that is needed desperately to be, and the people around you will acknowledge you as a leader. I mean, there are people who see me as a leader, but there are people who probably don't see me as a leader. But equally, I see different people as a leader, or people I think have never earned that word from me. So
Mhm.
each person holds on to that word of leadership, but they're the ones that actually have the key to determine if you are a leader or not. So for the people around that are striving to this thing called leadership, stop for a moment and realize, what are you doing, and is this going to get you what you need in the end?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Oh
But
no.
my thing though, leadership is it can be very difficult
Mhm.
based on the feedback from followers,
Mhm.
right? It can be very difficult based on the feedback from followers. But those persons,
Mhm.
let's go into writers now, because
Mhm.
most of your philosophy, most of the things you're saying are embedded in your writings, right?
Mhm.
And that's critical. You have a lot to share. It's very interesting, the things that you have been sharing.
Mhm.
They If I want to become a writer, because you
Mhm.
mentioned that we all have stories,
Mhm.
right? And if I want to write those stories, document those stories, what's your advice to persons who want to become
Mhm.
a writer?
Yeah. First thing and foremost is to not be afraid. I mean, I was not a writer, and I still remember. And one of the things I wrote in the beginning of my book was, there's fear in me in sharing my stories because I'm worried about what people may think.
Hmm.
But the bigger fear is, what if I don't write this book and share my stories?
Hmm.
The idea is, you don't have to go out to be published as an author. The main thing is,
Hmm.
you just want to be there to be acknowledged, and maybe it's just capturing your family history just for a small audience. Maybe
Hmm.
that's the extent of it. I
Yeah,
think the idea of writing, though, is just get started.
yeah, yeah, and we can do all that editing and all of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've written a number of books myself. It's very interesting how we write, and there are many persons who would have said to me, I'm trying to write a book and I just don't know where to start. Really, I just don't know
Hmm.
what to do.
Hmm.
So people like you, Sam, you know i- you know will be able to assist them
Hmm.
in that, and I will talk about your contacts later
Hmm.
and so on, right? Communicators.
Hmm.
um I would think at times it's a difficult task.
Hmm.
I remember one of my guests was saying that, hey, we're not stage fright, we
Hmm.
are we're just concerned about what people will say about us. Talk to us about, your advice for communicators.
Yeah, communication is just another mechanism of expressing yourself, and you have to find the communication channel that's best for you.
Right.
If you're somebody like me who's an extrovert, I can get to an event and I can talk to people who I don't
Yeah.
even know. And those people who, maybe feel nervous about, how do I get into a conversation? I always say the simplest thing is ask an easy question, listen and observe. In other words, I always say, if I came to your house for dinner and I knock on the door, is the first thing you're going to ask me, Sam, I just wanted to know, what are the key communication tools that you would suggest and recommend for budding authors or for anybody who wants to get a presence? Is that what you would ask me as you open the door? Or would it be, Sam, come on in. How are you? How was your flight? How was your flight to Florida? And how are you liking Florida?
Yeah.
Ask the simple questions, and then this way I'll answer, oh man, I love this, and it's the experience was great or the experience was bad, and you're listening, but then you're able to now think in my mind, here's the next thing I want to ask, here's the next thing, and it just becomes a conversation. So don't think too much about the conversation and how it's going to be. Just embrace it and talk to each other. But I think our it's interesting because we all have devices, and these devices are supposed to connect us, but it actually separates us. Yeah. I still value the conversation with somebody, whether in person, maybe we do it over Zoom. In person is the best because you get to really be present with that person.
Yeah, definitely, Sam. Building a personal brand is something that is very personal to me. I if you realize, my name is Ken Youth, and I have Ken Youth, Youth. That's a brand for me. I use it in almost every concept that I have developed. And I know that you have written about this, and you have some philosophy on this, building personal brand and presence. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, a personal brand is who you are. And I always tell people that, you have to protect it and you have to build this. Think of it as character is who you are, reputation is people's perception of who you are, and you have to protect both of those. The analogy that I use when I'm teaching my class or when I'm mentoring and coaching or speaking at a conference, I say, think of it as you've got a corner store and you've got Starbucks. And let's say today it's a beautiful sunny day and you need to go buy a pair of flip-flops. Well, the corner store sells groceries, lottery tickets, coffee, hardware, fried chicken. They sell all of this stuff.
Right.
Now, would you go to Starbucks to buy a pair of flip-flops? And the answer is, of course not, because they sell tea, coffee, and food-related items.
Yeah.
Now, you might go to the corner store because they might have it. Now, somebody may argue that, yeah, but isn't it better to be the corner store because you have so much to offer? And I said, no, but here's the problem. People don't know what you can offer. They want to go to where they know they can get flip-flops. So they're not going to go to Starbucks. They may go to a footwear store or something like that. What you really need to do is build on your brand so you become very distinct and unique. So for me, I mean, I get a lot of requests for speaking, for working with youth on personal branding and developing their vision, on storytelling, any number of topics, because they know that's what I'm comfortable about speaking. So you really have to pull yourself into a place where people start recognizing, that this is what this person is capable of doing.
Right. As we talk about personal branding, this thing about realizing your purpose, realizing my purpose, there are practical tools for that as well. There are advice that you can give us as it relates to realizing our purpose.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is that society says, find your passion and you will find happiness.
Yeah.
I always say passion is not sustainable. Passion is an igniter
Oh.
to your purpose,
Mm.
because passion, you can't sustain that, but it ignites the purpose that you need. Now, a high school student or a university student is going to have a hard time finding purpose at that age,
Yeah.
because again, they're really trying to understand who they are. But as we go through life, we go through life in autopilot. We do our job, we go in
Yeah.
routine and everything. But
Mm.
what is the purpose? And again, the 5 core elements that I shared earlier helps you to guide, because I will share with you that if you can hit 5 out of 5,
Yeah.
see, I don't have a job or career. I have fulfillment. I have purpose, because I'm very specific on what opportunities I will take on.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say passion is an igniter to your purpose.
So you are saying then, Sam, you're suggesting that if I, for instance, well, I'm in psychology, but if I decided, hey, I don't have passion for psychology anymore, because are you suggesting that I am saying this because it's not in line with my purpose anymore?
Well, the idea is your passion or your journey should guide you to a purpose.
Right.
And if, let's say, you are in psychology and for whatever reason, and I speak to a lot of people who said, I just wasted 2 years of my life in engineering because I want to be in business, or I spent 2 years of my life in psychology, but I want to be in design. And I said, so basically what you're saying is those 2 years you spent, you learned nothing. And they're like, well, no, I learned. And I said, yeah, but this is going to help in your journey. And what we need to do is reflect on, how is it going to help my journey? How is it going to change your thinking or support the thinking to where you need to go?
So we can lose our passion.
Oh, yeah. Because it's not sustainable, but the passion should ignite something.
I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. So passion is in relationship. We talk about this whole thing about passion, intimacy, companionship and so on. But that passion, that wanting to be with the person, that quote unquote, enjoying the person's, feelings, right? Can we lose passion easily in our relationships?
I think you can. Having communication or, routine and just the same old, like, in other words, that can become a bit of a challenge. So over time, but the idea is that if you are truthful and honest and show compassion, then you grow together as individuals. But equally, I think that there's this other word in our language that's a beautiful word, and it's called pyar. So it's P-Y-A-A-R, pyar, and it's love. But now there's different forms of pyar, and there's the pyar between a married couple or a couple that are dating. That intimacy, as you said. But then pyar is also people who want to do things for you just because of this appreciation they have for you. They do, like the mother in Bahrain who wants to feed me. That's given with pyar. That's this whole piece of, I want to do something to make you happy. So this whole idea of love and appreciation, it goes hand in hand, and I think we need to have more of the pyar in the world.
I like that. I love that. And that ties into this question: connectedness and puzzle analogy. What is that puzzle analogy thing? I'm puzzled. Talk to me about that.
Sure. The idea is, again, it goes back to that extraordinary out of the ordinary. And the idea is that what I realized is that, this is what people feel like. They feel like a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And they go through life this way. They feel like a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. They don't know where they fit in, and they don't know what the bigger picture is. So here's what I tell them. This is ordinary, but I am going to make it extraordinary right before your eyes. And they're like, okay. I said, instead of focusing on the single piece, let's focus on this, my satchel. Because if I give you a piece of my puzzle, do you realize my puzzle is permanently now incomplete without you? Do you realize how important you are? And what's really fascinating is I can see the transformation on people's face when I tell them this. And I've given over 5,000 pieces in the world to remind people how important they are. At times, I see this where they tell me it's pinned on my mirror, and it reminds me someone told me how important I am. People have it in these little curio boxes. They've traveled with it around the world, or it's in their wallets, and when they see me at an event, they share it with me that they still have it. It's also where somebody will suddenly come up running saying, Sam, I can't find my puzzle piece and I feel disconnected. Can I get another piece?
Okay, cool.
But it is so important for as a reminder. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago who said that she was going through a very difficult time in life. I hadn't talked to her in about 3 years, but she said she was going through a very difficult time in her life. And the deepest, darkest moments where she really was in a very challenging space, she said, I saw your puzzle piece and it reminded me that someone cared. Somebody said that I mattered. And she said it brought me out. It was one of the things that helped to bring me out. That's the puzzle analogy.
Yeah. There's this poem, no man is an island, no man stand alone. Each man's death diminishes somebody. Like when I hear that, I think of what you're perhaps alluding to there. Each of us is a piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
We have a purpose. Right?
And
we have a purpose.
And a part to play.
Yeah. Very, very interesting, Sam. Very interesting. Where can we get your book?
Yeah. If you go to my website, sam-thiara.com, and then my writing, my book is available on many different places there. So that's one place. You can also just go to Amazon and it's there as well. So just type in my name in the search.
Can you spell that name for persons listening to us and their favorite podcast platform?
Yeah. So if you go into Amazon and type in Sam and then Thiara, so Thiara, it should come up with regards to Lost and Found or the personal storytelling book. But if they also just go to my website, which is www.sam-thiara, Thiara.com, and then my writing is there as well when you get to my website.
Very, 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 very interesting, Sam. And you lecture, right?
I do.
Right, cool.
Well, I lecture my boys. That's a different lecture, but I also lecture in university.
Oh, okay. I got you. And, I'm a part of academia myself. I do some dabble in the lecturing thing. Very interesting. Do you find though that, put it this way, when your students achieve, say you lecture at the university level, perhaps bachelor's degree, and they move on and you see they become a doctor, having a doctorate and so on. How do you really feel? That's a trick question, but I want you to answer.
Oh, no, that's not a trick question. That one's very easy because this has been replicated in my life so many times. And the best way for me to describe it is I feel so much satisfaction because I was on their journey. And it's not my success, it's their success. So the way I look at it is, for example, in the Olympic Games, in ice hockey, for example, when the Canadians win the gold medal, they come off the bench and they celebrate and they get the medals. The coach does not get the medal. The coach stands with his arms folded in the background with a grin on his face saying, that was satisfying. That is something that we just accomplished. I will tell you that I am surrounded by greatness. Sir Isaac Newton said, I've been able to see far because I stood on the shoulder of giants. I am standing on the shoulder of giants. I have people surrounding me who are entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, politicians, accountants, lawyers. I mean, that's their title. but they've gone on to do amazing things in life,
yeah,
and I'm still connected to these people. It's a beautiful place to be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I could describe it, in my sense as painting. I
Hmm.
start to paint, and when it had completed. It's just marvelous. Say, look at
Yep.
my and the work, and I know I didn't do it alone because
Yep.
somebody had to provide the paint,
Hmm.
somebody had to provide the platform.
Yeah.
So those students have to provide, play their part as well.
Hmm.
They have to study hard. They have to do what they have to do to get through the studies. So
Yeah.
I am always excited to see them.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and
But
I take a, I was going to say, I take a very personal stake in this as well, in that,
yeah,
I will sit down and talk to them, or they can approach me. And many times they say, you're like that uncle who just is there and present. And
yeah,
again, it's very rewarding to just be in their presence.
yeah.
I feel very blessed.
Yeah, yeah, we know, right? We have experienced it. Hey, Sam, it's
Hmm.
so nice talking to you, right? And as I always said to my guests, you are a part of my friend list now, right? So it's all about networking as well,
Yeah.
right? You can call up Dr. White. Here in the States, I need to talk to you. I can, that's how it is. So life
Hmm.
is like that. It's a big stage, and we're all actors.
Yes.
Shakespeare, right? So we are all networking, and it's really nice to have you on Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast, talking about some of the philosophy in your writing and so on. And how's Canada doing now? How's Canada doing with the
Hmm.
COVID? We're still in a pandemic. How is it going?
In British Columbia, which is the
Oh,
province that I live in, yeah, it's going very well. In fact, we've pretty much vaccinated most of the people, and also at the same time, things are opening back up again.
oh, cool.
So it's all good.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Hmm.
It's after Jamaica, the 1st of July, the
Hmm.
Prime Minister basically opened the entertainment sector. We strive on entertainment and the
Hmm.
tourism, not to leave tourism out of it, because
Yeah.
have you ever gone to Jamaica?
Not yet.
Ah, cool. You need to go there, right? We strive on tourism, but
Hmm.
entertainment is also a critical part of the Jamaican culture. And it's
Yes.
nice to know that Jamaica is now being open. And,
Hmm.
the rest of the world, I saw a poll that was done saying that over 50% of people believe that we are coming back now,
Hmm.
things getting back to normal, and
Yes.
I'd want to think so as well here in Florida and
Hmm.
other parts of the United States. Right, Sam, great talking to you, man. All right,
Thank
and
you.
I will talk to you soon again. All right, take care,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Bye
All the
bye.
best. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. So that was Sam. Very very great individual. He has a lot to talk about in his writing. And go on Amazon, get his book, Sam Thiara, Lost and Found. And there's another book as it relates to storytelling, personal storytelling, discovering the extraordinary in the ordinary. Sam has a lot to tell you in his book, right? A lot you can read about, and we have been talking about some of those concepts that Sam had in mind. This thing about connectedness and your puzzle analogy, and he talked about personal brand and the presence, and how you can be a better communicator, and how to realize your purpose in life, and basically to make your voice louder than the noise around you. That's important, right? As we continue to strive and to be the best of us, as we can be. Sam has been working hard to let us understand our identity. This thing about the cultural diversity, and the fact that is Indian, Canadian, and this whole thing about identity. But he's a very nice person, no matter what race, right? No matter what race you are, right? No matter what your identity is, the important thing is that you're a nice person, and that you're able to contribute to society in a most meaningful way, like Sam is, right? So go on his website, and when you go on Amazon, just look for his name, Sam Thiara. I'll spell Thiara. That's his last name. Type that in, and you will be able to get to his website as well. But please go there and contribute to Sam writing. Remember, we're still in a pandemic. Wash your hands. Continue to keep that social distance, and also remember, I'm not telling you to take the vaccine. I had, actually received my 2 doses, Pfizer, and but I'm encouraging you to do that, so that even though people are saying that we are normalized again, so that we can be really normalized, right? So go ahead and take your vaccine. This was Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I am Dr. Canute White. Hey, this was Canute's Exploration, your topic in a podcast, a CM Pen LLC production. I am Dr. Canute White. Remember to subscribe, share, rate, and comment. You can reach me at wradio668@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at Canute's Exploration. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.